It's so wonderful to hear all of the about-to-be graduates that are yelling so lustily today. It's so wonderful that the parents brought them today, so hopefully they'll all be sitting in your seats up there getting their degrees at some point. First, let me thank U of T for this incredible honor. It's very unexpected, and it certainly means a lot, so thank you to all of you. I have given many speeches under intimidating circumstances over the years, but today ranks right up there. What do you say to a room full of talented graduates eagerly awaiting your chance to make a difference? I'm going to start with a story. My father came from a working class background. His teachers didn't consider him a good student, certainly not the kind to reach university. And he hadn't thought of it either. One day in class, a teacher asked each student to speak about what they wanted to be when they grew up. Luckily, the student seated in front of him spoke first. This guy was the typical, most popular kid in school, the football star, good-looking, seemed to do everything right. I'm sure you know the type. We all had at least one in our class. He stood up and gave a wonderful, impassioned speech about how he would save the world by being a doctor, by saving lives, curing cancer. So Don, the teacher said to my dad, "What about you?" "Well," my dad said sheepishly, "that sounded so good, I think I'll be a doctor too." The class laughed at him. The teacher, who in retrospect was very astute, bet my dad $1 he would never make it. I know this story because Dad kept that $1 check all his life. He never cashed it, just framed it, and he hung it on the wall next to his medical degree. Not only did he finish university and med school, he became the kind of small-town family doctor we all wish we had. It was a career he loved deeply, and his patients loved him back. And he has no idea what happened to the student who spoke before him. If Dad were still with us, he would chuckle about today's honorary doctorate and say, "Kiddo, that's the closest you're ever going to get to being called a doctor." I tell this story not just because it had a big impact on me and my siblings. Of course it did. But because it sums up all that advice I'm sure you heard from your parents and teachers. Follow your dreams, believe in yourself, work hard, get a good education, don't let others dictate your values. All wise words, and all worth living by. And today you take that first important step, getting that degree, that education, the crucial building block for success. One of the great experiences I've had here while sitting on governing council was meeting so many talented students. It helps prevent that tendency of us old folks to complain about the younger generation. Today's young people just don't get it, just don't get this or that, or the tried and true, well, in my day. I wish I had a list of all those I've met because they will light up the world in whatever field they choose. Now, I know some of you may not know what you want to do yet, while others will probably have it all plotted out. And that's okay. Life sorts itself out, as long as you use that education and are open to new challenges. I lost count of the many different careers I've had. None of them were really planned. All were just interesting, challenging opportunities. I actually started out to be a foreign affairs journalist, ended up being an Ontario finance minister, first woman to actually deliver a budget in the province. It was a great, unpredictable ride. And looking back on it, I wouldn't change a thing. So you may have a career plan, and you may not, and that's okay. I once interviewed an ambitious young man who was just starting out, and I asked him, I said, "What's your career plan? Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years? Well, he looked at me rather oddly, and he said, "Well, what do you want to hear, my 5-year plan or my 10-year plan?" Few of us are ever that organized. And as the old saying goes, life is what happens when you're making plans. And plans, as the management consultants will tell you, rarely survive contact with reality. So don't worry if you don't know yet. Take that degree, jump into life with both feet, and it'll come in surprising ways. I once got talked into taking on a little side-of-the-desk part-time project that turned into a 12-year full-time job working with all levels of government, the Prime Minister, 2 premiers, multiple finance ministers, the financial industry, academia. And we were working together to build Toronto Region into a top 10 international financial center. And collectively, we did it. So be open to new opportunities. Occasionally take a risk. You can do that when you're young because you've lots of times to fix it if you need to. Here's another thought. A good education is merely table stakes. Hopefully you've also learned about learning because you can never stop. Track down the most important person in your field. Ask how they succeeded. Learn. I have found in my life and in watching others that it is a critical skill. I once worked for Premier Bill Davis, a very successful political leader, and I was considered young to have gotten a Premier's office job, and I must have been walking around like I was pretty hot stuff. Early on, a wise colleague pulled me into a quiet corner and said, "Remember, everything you did before you walked into that office got you this job. But the moment you walked in, none of that mattered. You need to earn the right to stay there." It was an important lesson. What mattered was how I would perform from then on, how I stepped up my game and learned new skills. Past experience helps you move up the ladder, but what keeps you there is knowing what you don't know and what you need to know for the success in each role. The known unknowns, as one political figure once put it. Some final thoughts. First, in this day of polarized public and private debate, one on just about any topic, listen to those you don't agree with from time to time. My husband is a former international journalist with some pretty firm political beliefs, let me tell you. But he continuously reads things he doesn't agree with. He likes to say you need to know what the other side is thinking. He wants to know how and why they think the way they do to better understand, to learn. And yes, sometimes he changes his mind. I think he actually voted for me once. A journalist colleague he highly respected from another publication was decidedly at the opposite end of the political spectrum. But they got along well, regularly reading each other's columns, not because they agreed, they most definitely didn't, but because they learned from each other. And some of the accomplishments I am most proud of, inside and outside government, were achieved with all parties' support because we listened to each other. Secondly, read history. Not the politically motivated treatises that warp our country's story to fit into today's trendy political opinions, but the real history, the good, the bad, the could have been better bits, but most importantly, the good. Because this country is truly a wonder, warts and all. What we have collectively built here is worth promoting, defending, and yes, fixing from time to time. It is something that others from around the world seek to join. And if we forget that, we will not defend it, and we will lose it for our children and theirs. History is also important because you aren't the first generation to face tough times, nor will you be the last. I know there are days you despair of ever building the kind of life your parents enjoyed. Yes, we do face serious challenges, but imagine what it was like to come of age when the whole world was at war during the Second World War, or trying to make a living during the economic carnage of the Great Depression, or living through the Cuban Missile Crisis when we almost blew ourselves up in a nuclear war. Draw comfort from the fact that those earlier generations faced crises too, and they survived, they succeeded, and we built what we all enjoy today. And you can and will too. Which brings me to my final thought today. Once established in your career, consider a detour and try public service, particularly political office. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and there are many ways to serve your country and your community, but throwing your hat into the political ring is worth considering. Our country at every level needs all the accomplished people it can get. Too few do so today, with all due respect to those who are currently serving. Of all my career opportunities, the most challenging and fulfilling was being an elected official, serving with another successful premier, Mike Harris. The highs were higher, and for sure, the lows were lower. But for me, it was an unmatched career, career highlight. Political life can look like a partisan nightmare, and sometimes it can be, but it also produces good things. You can make a difference in many ways, both large and small. As I mentioned, some of the accomplishments I am most proud of happened with support from others across the floor. Let me share a final story. Several years after politics, I attended a local business conference. I was in between sessions, standing in the lobby, chatting to some folks. A woman was standing to one side, waiting for my group to break up. When it did, she approached me and she said, "Minister, can I still call you minister?" She said, "You don't know me, and that's okay. But I promised myself that if I ever got the chance to meet you, I would say thank you, because you made a decision that saved my family's life. So thank you for doing that." And then she quickly turned and walked away, leaving me deeply moved and literally speechless. I have no idea who she was or what I'd done for her, but it had clearly mattered. You don't have to be an elected official or even a great family doctor. There are many ways to serve, to contribute to your neighborhood, your community, and yes, your country and the world. What you've learned here, the insights you've gained, the skills you've mastered are all incredibly great assets. Use them well, make a difference. Once again, thank you to all of you for this honor, the opportunity to speak, and thank you very much to my friends and family for helping get me here. There I go.